Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd like to talk about Microsoft PowerToys. Now, I just did a video a couple of days ago on it, and I was quite happy with it, but then I found another couple of neat little features, so I'm going to do an update and blow that other one away. I did do one about a year or 2 years back, and it said it's a handy free tool. Why not give it a crack? And so the original one had a few of these utilities, and they seem to be adding over time. Now, it's maintained by, you can get it off the Microsoft store, or you can actually go to GitHub and actually get it and do the updates yourself. But I've noticed that this has grown, and it's also maintained by Microsoft, so it seems to have some good extra features coming through. Now, as a simple thing that you just load up in the background and just leave it there, I've had it running on the back of my computer, and it doesn't seem to be causing any grief at all. But the new add-ons are definitely worth doing. Now, there's always on top, and I didn't really have a use case for that, but I do now, so I'm actually just going to be trying that out. And that's when I've actually I'm in Obsidian, which I use for note taking, really good. But if I want to get an image in there, I've actually got to go into somewhere like this, and as I go and grab this, sometimes I find this disappears into the background or something weird happens. So what I actually find is that I can now come into here. I can now go, what's the one for that? Always on top. Sorry, always on top. Alt Shift R. So I can now come into here. So you can see now it's clicked into that, and it's blooming all disappeared again. So I've got to come into here. I can now click onto that, and I can go. No, wrong one. I've forgotten what it was again now. No. Sorry, Alt Shift R. There we are. Alt Shift R. It highlights that. That's now, if I click onto this one, this still stays there. So I can drag this across. This is where I find I can think about where I want to have my image located, drop the image in, and then I can come back to here and go Shift Alt R, and it disappears. So now there, I've got my image into there quite nicely. Control Shift Control Z and get rid of it through there. There's been a bit of a nuisance. So it's a nice little workaround. So I thought, no, I should use that. I'd use something like always on top. I've got a script running in the background at the moment in order hotkey, and you can suddenly saying I want this so that it works. So anything that there is always on top. But so I'm familiar with the command, but I don't. I use it specifically if I'm running a script for something, but sometimes there are cases when you might want to actually hold something through there. So that's just one of them that I find. I suddenly thought, it's been around for a while, but I suddenly got a use case for it. It's got this thing awake. Now, this I think was somehow come on because of remote workers, of bosses actually seeing if you're still working on your computer while you're working from home. So you can keep using selected scour plan, you can keep awake indefinitely, or you can keep awake temporarily. And this is something which I've actually just been using recently, and what's been happening is I've run a script or something like that, and I've got to have the computer running so that it doesn't. And sometimes I've got to go out, and then I've got to kind of go and find. I've got to go into settings and go into there, and then find display and things to set up the whole thing. And then when I come back to actually reset it all up again, this is a handy place that I can come into there. I can run that script, and I can actually. And the nice thing with this is that I can actually just keep away indefinitely, or I can keep away for a specific thing. So I know that the script is going to run for maybe an hour because it's doing a bit of a download of API data or something like that, and then some other processing and things. So it's a long process that I've got to trigger through. This is so I've got a real use case for that. Now you can actually just use it to actually keep running indefinitely, so that when you go away and do, if you're working from home, you're just doing another little task like making the beds or something like that, or making the evening meal in the middle of the day. you can actually get something. I've heard you can actually buy mouses that jiggle or something like that, but you can actually just write a simple little hotkey script that will move your mouse around every 5 minutes or something like that. So you can just run a little script to do that, or else you can have one that will actually just pop up a little notepad. So you can say file start notepad, and you do that, and then you can type some random text into there, and then you can actually just close it down, and then you can actually wait 10 minutes and then start another one. So there's easy ways around that, and I think there's even some online things that will actually automatically start doing some typing and things for you as well, just to stay live. So that, yeah, you know, I thought they were a bit quirky, but there is, I have a use case for that one. The color picker and the fancy zones. The color picker I use once in a while when I'm doing a bit of web design. There's a few of those out there, and I think there's also one in your browser where you can choose colors based on those. Fancy zone, I've never really got the hang of, and I don't really like it. File locksmith, it's not something Windows which processor using selected files and directories, not really something I need at the moment. This is a game changer for me that I think is absolutely fantastic. You can now view scalable graphics, you can do markdown for me, which is important because I use Obsidian, and so inside Obsidian you do it in markdown. Now sometimes I've noticed that as my files are getting quite massive, or my vaults are getting massive in here, sometimes I actually don't have them, or I'm not taking that many notes in a day. I've got a lot of my notes now, I can just go back to refer to the ones I want. Sometimes there's a new article that I write, so I'm not using it. I was using it all the time. Now I'm not using it as frequently because I've got a lot of the data, and it's great when I actually just need to go and look up something. So a lot of the times I just want to check where a certain file is or something like that. I can actually use my file explorer. The other one is source codes. Now here's something that is an absolute pleasure for me. So if I just come into here and just go into Python and come into electricity, and if we just fire into that one there, in the, now you can always see a CSV file. So I'm downloading stuff at the moment. I'm doing a lot of work with APIs. So I'm making Python API calls as a preferred method. I like using the Python script. It's going off, getting stuff, it's bringing it back as a JSON file. And before, I'd actually have to open Notepad++ or be in VS Code to actually view the JSON data. Whereas now, I can actually just view the data inside of here, and I can actually select some of it, because this is another thing that I sometimes do is like I might actually, no, that's a, I think that's a massive amount of data inside of that one. If I just grab that bit of data there, copy, and if I just go into control and JSON to CSV, I can actually just check that out in here. It's saying it's an error. I think I might need a square on the back of that and the square on the front of it. No, still not quite doing it. But anyway, you can actually check out some of your JSON and validate it. So that I think is brilliant. The other thing that it does as well is that I can see my code. So I can actually view my code. Absolutely cool. The other thing as well is that I can now view PDFs. Now this is 2D PDFs. I'm not too sure whether you can actually view 3D PDFs, which I actually create sometimes for some of the things I'm doing for some 3D models. But from the point of view is I'd be reading when I'm working on some projects with lots and lots of drawings and things like that. It's really handy to do. Now normally I'd be opening up Adobe Reader specifically just for PDFs, or I'd be using my browser if there's only just one or two. So it could be a bit of a nuisance doing those, but now I can actually just do them here. Great. So this is really good at just checking things. So the text and stuff you can always do. Now this is one, you see, if it's in if it's a .json format, if we look at the equivalent in .json format, you see that it's all colorized. Whereas if you look at it in the text, it's just reading it as straight text, although it is actually a JSON file. So that was one of the things I suppose I could have done, is just rename the JSON file as text or something, and then it would actually make it readable. But you know, this is just brilliant. Now it doesn't. I've tested it out on Python and it reads the Python stuff. I haven't tested it out on I tested out on all the hotkeys. .ahk extension doesn't read them at all, and I haven't tried it in JavaScript or HTML, but that needs a bit of an exercise. But for me at the moment, absolutely brilliant. So I think has saved me a lot of time. Instead of opening other programs just to view one of the files, I can actually do all of that in File Explorer now. So now this is one of the ones. It's a little bit of a ramble, but it does have a point to it. I wrote a program that was a sort of an add-in to a building modeling program, and it ended up using a whole lot of shortcut keys to do something. Now, other people have shortcut keys which are just 2 or 3 letters, and they would do the first step in a command that you would be using. Then you'd actually have to do another step further on, like you do a copy, and then you'd actually have to move your mouse somewhere else, and then you'd have to do a paste or something like that. So you'd have one for C. That's a simplistic example. You know, you're drawing a wall or something like that. So and what I was doing was I was trying to combine those together so you could do something like 4 steps all at once. So it would do the copy, you click one point, the other point, and then you paste it to the other one through there, bang, straight away. Or you do a wall, and as soon as you did the wall, it would do the wall, and then it would pop up with the next bit that you would be doing. So you'd have a sequence of commands rather than just one command on each particular keyboard. Now, because of that, people could remap their own shortcut keys inside the program themselves. So I wanted extra shortcut keys. So I made them very long, so they were sort of like, I think the maximum you allowed were 5 letters, so nearly all of mine were 5 letters, so they didn't interfere with anybody else's. So mine were long, but then I had to map keys to them so that they could then remap them to something. So my ones would actually do multiple things, so there would be 5 long, it might be 5 of these long 5-letter things that would all be chained together and a single command, and then you'd actually just do one simple key to do that. So after all of that blurb, one of the things was I ran out of keys from the point of view of people doing shortcut keys. So because I had all of these very long extension ones, I needed to be able to map them somewhere. So on your keyboard, you can actually, you've got F1 through to F12, but you can also use Control F1 and Shift F1 and Alt F1 and the same through to F12. But there's also F13 to F24. So although you can't see them on your keyboard, Windows accepts those. So they're kind of programmable keys that you can have on gaming keyboards that would have those extra keys as well. So since they're there, you can map to them. So I was mapping to these keys. So if you've got 13 to 24, that's 12 keys. Then you've got Shift 13 to 24, so that's another 12. Then you've got Control those ones, and you've got Alt, and then you've also got the Windows key. So suddenly you've got something like 54 keys or 54 positions that you can map to. So that's what I was actually mapping to through there, and then from those you could then map your own preference. So this was something that would allow people to map to whatever their own preferred mapping was, because I've compiled the program so you couldn't go and alter those things in the ones that I got, and I'd made them so that they didn't clash with anybody else's, and then they could do that. So in a way, I was able to allow people to access things without actually making them become programmers in something like AutoHotkey scripting or some other way of actually activating these things. They just had to download the Keyboard Manager and map to the ones that they preferred. So it allowed them the flexibility of modifying my keys to what their preferred keys could be. So that, I think, on its own was such a great thing, and since it was free, everybody could use it. The next one is some mouse utilities. Now I do actually have a couple that I just want to demonstrate here, so I'm just going to go into this particular article and just go Control. Now I use Max Launcher, so if I just go into 2, I've got one, so I just type R, and here's my highlighter. So if I'm doing a video and I just want to highlight things, I can put that in there. So we just go Control and T, it turns it off. I've also got another one which is O, which is crosshairs. So it's only come up with the 3 of the 4, and I can turn that off through there. So I had those already, but now you can actually do those in PowerToys. That one there is one. So there's one called Highlighter, and the highlighter one's slightly different. The highlighter one that they have in here does, and I'll demonstrate that in a second, and you've also got the crosshair. So you can actually go in and change those to what you want. If I just go into the highlighter one, that only works when you click a button. So there I'm clicking the left button, you see it's yellow. If I click the right button, it shows it as blue. So, and this is good if you're clicking on a certain item, you can then see on the screen where somebody's clicking. So you say I'm clicking there. So if that was a button, you'd see that you were activating that. So if you're doing a demonstration video, it's a sort of a handy thing that was a trigger. Now you can change the colours, and you can change the thickness, and you can change the size of the circles, and you can say that change the transparency. And with the crosshairs, there's a whole lot of adjustments you can make inside those. So again, that's brilliant. So now I've actually just got that running in the background on that particular thing. It's there that I can actually use it when I want to. So that's really good. The next one that I just want to highlight through here, so there's paste as plain text. That's sometimes quite useful. I'll actually grab something off a website or something and put it into my Obsidian, and then it's formatted already. So sometimes I find it's better to paste it in as plain text and then do the format. I prefer to format myself rather than having things. So especially if you're cutting and pasting into something like a Word document, and then all the formatting comes in with you. So having that to do is quite a useful one. I don't think it was there before, but it is there now, so it's something. The PowerRenamer was there for a while, and that's still the same. PowerToys Run is a good one. And this is one I'll demonstrate here. Shift, Alt, and F. And if I have nothing in there, you just get a type in here. Now, if I go C, you can see it start to come anything with the C. So we've got command prompt through here, but also you can run as administrator, run as a different user. So if it's the same as going into the start menu here and start to type command prompt there, I can run as administrator. So all of this. Now I like this, the fact that it's in your face in the middle of the screen rather than hidden down in the corner. I do find it distracting when I go down there. Now I've got a similar tool to this, and I just want to highlight two things with that. This one, they acknowledge that it might be attribution is to Wox. So Wox is an app launcher. There's another one called Launchy, and the one that I use is called Executor. And I'll just demonstrate that one through here. So you can add your own keys and searches and things in here as to what you actually want to do with it. But basically what I use this for is for searching, and I'll demonstrate that now. So if I've got things which I know, like you've got all of your bookmarks and stuff through here, but the ones that I use all the time, I really want on a key, fast key somewhere, but I don't want to remember the fast key or anything. So all I need to do is have it inside here, and I can visually see whichever one it is that I actually want to use. So I've got those. Now this has 3 down, 10 across, so that's 30 into here, and there's 10 cells. So there's 300 cells I can actually put things in. So I find this very good for grouping all of the things that I'm using all the time. And I like it visually because I don't use that frequently. But there it is there. Some of them, like if I'm using, say, going to particular websites and stuff like that, a lot of them I've got some which is just a script hotkey which opens up 5 of the websites together, or else you can actually put them into a subfolder so that it opens up 3 or 4 web pages all at the same time. Just by, if you right click on the thing, I think if you do that, you can open all in tabs, so it opens up everything in that folder at the same time. So there's all these different ways, but what I actually use this one for is basically find. So it's things I haven't got, but I want to go looking for something. So if I want to do a DuckDuckGo search of something like we used the previous one that we got there, so we got and so this is looking up Executor. So this is actually the Executor, which is a program that I actually use, which I'll give a link for downloading or something like that. So that's if I'm doing that. Now a lot of times what I'm actually looking for is D and then Panda date time from string, and then I'll be looking up and it'll come into Stack Overflow or something like that to tell me how to do those sorts of things. So that's one way of doing things. There's that, and then if I'm doing a general search or something and it's not coming through on DuckDuckGo, I'll actually go to Google. Now I don't like Google because it does the tracking, but I can actually just go, instead of D, I go G for Google, 1, 2, 3, and it goes and looks up Google. I've got another one there which is B for Bing, but I haven't mapped it right. So I've got Bing for just B because it's got ChatGPT, but it doesn't work as well inside Firefox, so I've actually got to get it to fire up Edge and then do it. So I need to remap that one there, because I just find chatbot can be quite useful as well. Now the other one where I use it quite a lot is I'm a monkey see, monkey do, and I actually like people explaining things. So I actually have one for YouTube, and on this one, make tomato soup. Or tomato soup recipes, because I've got some tomatoes and I've got to figure out how to use them all up. So I'm always looking up things on YouTube, and I'm looking up things like a lot of coding stuff. It's really good for people explaining how to do things. And then the other thing that I used to have, and I need to I haven't got anything there at the moment, so I'll just go into here and I'll say, well, restaurants. Now, a great productivity tool, and I've got a video on it somewhere, is so if I've got an address, let's just click on that one there, something like that. I don't like a lot of maps. I actually like now what's happening here? Here we go. So here's an address. So I can just set that address there. I can go into here and I can say address in Gmaps. So it now opens up Google Maps and does that address for me and puts a pin down wherever it is. Don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. So we can do something, so it does it in Gmaps, but I was finding a lot of the times I couldn't select the text correctly, and it was really bugging me and stuff like that. And then I actually found there is one where again you can actually do address in Gmaps and just type, and it now does it. But you see, I'm actually having to do something different than what I'm actually normally doing. But so now I've actually ended up with this one, so I can actually just do maps. And if I just go, I was actually looking at Pepite, which is in Tahiti. My sister-in-law's heading off that way. It does that. So I've now got the same method of actually doing all these searches. Now I find it's very good because it's just a little pop-up box, and then I can sort of figure out the question without any distractions as to what I'm doing through here. So that to me is the way that I use that. But what I like, but I use it, I have other things like quick access pop-up, which will actually go and open up directories and things that I want to do directly. Now I find that's fantastic for navigation. Now it'll do similar things to Executor, and there are other tools that would do similar things. But I tend to use them all for one specific tool. They tend to do, all of them do one thing really well. So I end up with a lot of them to do these specifics. But again, I think this, for looking, I don't like coming down here with the mouse, clicking onto here, then having to actually type what I want. This, of having a hotkey that brings this straight up, that I can actually access those things straight away, and there's a command prompt, just say bang onto there. That is a much better way for actually accessing things on my computer. And again, rather than coming down and looking through all the menus of the things that I want, I can actually just go A for and start typing in the thing that I think I want. This, I think, is definitely something that I'd find a lot more useful. It hasn't got, I think, the extensibility of what I use Executor for, and Executor's got a few little nice little built-in scripts that he's actually written through there to actually activate some stuff on the computer. That's quite nice as well, but I don't use them. I look at them later and suddenly think they're seriously cool, and then probably don't use them. The next one that I think is, now this is, so that's, we've got it down to there. Now there is this thing called Screen Ruler, and I was sort of playing with it and then suddenly thought, would I use it or wouldn't I use that? And then I played with it and I thought, no, I won't. But I think that was Shift Alt T, was it? Was it? What was it? Control Shift T. Control Shift T. Okay, what this does is it pops up this little thing here. So if I wanted to measure the number of pixels in that. Now it's interesting that it actually goes to the side of the island, so it's actually working inside the map, but only for some of them. I think it's only doing where the road is on that one, and there is only one road in Tahiti, and then you drive around in little tuk-tuks or little trucks. It's cool. Then you can do it sideways, so so this is going to this point, so it's quite good if you're setting up a web page. You're saying, I like the proportions on that, what are the proportions? And then you can get similar ones like that. So you can do it horizontally and vertically at the same time to a certain extent. And then the other thing that you can do is that you can actually just make a box and it'll tell you how many pixels. Now as soon as I've just kind of held the mouse down and drag, and now if I just pull the finger off the left mouse button, it disappears. If I want to keep it, you pull it down and then you just hold the shift and it'll hold that one and it puts the number in the middle. Now if I want it again, I just hold and pull and then I hold shift and that'll happen. And then you just hit escape or just close it. Sort of good if you're doing a bit of web design or something like that. There is another program, and it might not work now. It wasn't doing it before. No, it's back to sad. I might have to go and find it. That one will let you find out. So I do sometimes find out a certain location on the screen of what I want for a pop-up box, or I want to identify an icon that I want to click on with a script. And so there are things that you can, that it's kind of quite handy to know the location of a specific thing on a specific screen. But you sort of need to know that you're kind of full size on your screen, and it might be different on other people's screens and stuff like that. So that's one interesting. I think that's the airport, isn't it? No. The airport. You dive at the end of the in Pipette. There's a plane at the end of the airport you could dive into. It just didn't quite land right and crashed. So a rather wet pilot. So that's one of the things for that. The last one, which I'd forgotten about, was text extractor. Now this is a cool text extractor. I like it because if I'm on here, I can go, I think it's Shift Alt T. The screen goes dull, and then you select something. So if I select that bit of text there, now it goes light. Now it's in clipboard. So if I open up something like Notepad and I just go V, there it comes through. All nicely done. If there's something on an image, so one of the ones that I was doing, so here I've got an image. So if I just go, what was I, Shift Alt T, and if I drag it across there, now if I go into here and go paste, it didn't quite do it. I think it sometimes doesn't read quite right, but you know, then again I can actually just go Shift Alt T there and get it there, comes through, V, get it there, and it's up in lowercase as per that one there, which is quite nice. Now there's a couple of things it doesn't work quite well on. Now if I just come into here and I go Shift Alt T, I've got to keep on remembering what it is. I've got to train my mind on some of these things. So if I select some numbers in here and go OK, and then if I go and paste them, you see they paste vertically, and some of them you might actually need to just break them down and stuff like that. Whereas if I'd have just done a cut and paste into here and put it into the notepad, I'll just select all V, you see that it actually comes in that tabular manner. So there's some things it does well and other things it doesn't, but it's very good actually with images. And one of the ones that I'm going to give an example of is, this is very poor. I don't know what this is, whether it's Times New Roman, so it's very light lines on the upward of the last bit of the W. Now if I go and do it there, what you'll find is it doesn't necessarily, it's got Mr. Chu Shao Chi instead of Chu. So you can get almost there, and that's actually quite a good rendition. I had another one, didn't quite, it kind of even garbled up the Mr. bit. Now, where I'd find this is quite useful is that I'll be watching a video and someone will be demonstrating a bit of code, and you'll see them type in the code, and they don't share the code. You've actually got to go look on screen and go and type all of the code out. Now that really irritates the hell out of me, especially when I was first learning to do some of the code, because I found I spent 15 times more debugging what I was typing because I was typing wrong. One, because I'm an old wrinkly, and two, because my typing skills aren't the best. So I always make sure if I'm doing a demonstration, I give the code so that they've got the full code, they can run it and it should work, and then they can break it, and then they can fix it, and then they can run it and do it. Now that, I think, is better learning than actually having to type out the whole moronic thing from the scratch. And so I always get very resentful when people do it. Now what I was doing was I was actually taking screenshots, and then I was using Google Keep, and using Google Keep to actually go from the image to text, so you could do that. But this is such a handy little thing to have there, and also, like, you'll get onto some websites or something, like if we actually just go back up to the news or something like that, you've got a bit of information there, and you try selecting that text. All you want is just the header of the text or something like that. You can't flip and grab it. You can't grab the text. Whereas if you just go Shift Alt T, you can actually just grab the text there, and then you just paste it into an article and suddenly say, I saw this on BBC and it was an article about this, and then maybe you would go in and give a link or something like that. But it's it can be a bit annoying the way, and you'll also find on some things you can't actually select text. They've actually got a lock on the text or something that you can't see it, and that's quite a handy way of getting around that, and you can do it. The other quite interesting thing which I found with this is, if we just did this for the text through here, is you see there's heading text, and then there's other text, and if we just come through and do a paste on that, you see it all comes through 5 minutes in normal text. Now a couple of things do occur that are a little bit odd. Sometimes you'll see that 0 replaces an O, or an O replaces a 0. So sometimes you just got to go in and do a little bit of tidy up on that sort of thing. But basically, a text from image, I'm seriously impressed with this one. This is really good. So the new PowerToys is definitely worth having. As I said, I got it for an obscure sort of reason for this keyboard manager, and I have played with the fancy zones and things like that, but I just find they don't work. The other really nice thing about it as well is when you've got it down here and you click on it down here, you can choose which ones you want running and which ones you don't want running. Like the awake, I'd leave it off all the time because it's only once in a while that I minded to check that, and the Find My Mouse, because there's a few of the things on that. The host file editor, I haven't found a use case for that yet, so I haven't done it. The mouse pointer crosshairs, I'll keep on all the time. The mouse highlighter, I'd keep on all the time. The PowerRenamer, I hardly ever do that. PowerToys run, so there's ones that I've used. The screen ruler, I wouldn't use that frequently. The text extractor I'd have on, because I'm forever snatching things on and off. So I find that's quite good. I suppose in some ways you're not bulking up a lot of the things in the background. The one thing which I will say about this, sometimes when you right hand click and go to settings, it doesn't open up the settings. Like, it seems to be working perfectly now, but I did have some problems with that, and what I found I had to do, I just had to exit the program, restart it from the start bar, and then go through and close it down, and then do the settings. That seem to work sometimes. And I think also when you do it from here, if you go into PowerToys, inside here you can actually run as an administrator, and I found that when it was running as administrator, it was running a lot better.